Welcome to the Just Josh podcast.
Who the fuck is this guy? Hey, who the fuck are you? Huh? Who the fuck are you?
This whole thing's a little weird.
Never you fear, laddie buck.
Welcome into the podcast. Today we got ROBYN Bingham on this show. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Hey, good. Thanks for joining me amongst all this craziness.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
I did want to start spotlighting some more, in the sense, local, in that you've been in a few bands and you play a lot of bars and different shows and stuff like that. But have you ever had, or wanted to tour more? Or is this something where you love what you do? Because sometimes, a lot of the local artists I know make a lot more and have more time on their hands and are able to have a job and a family and do music. Sometimes that's the better option.
Yeah. You know what? Yeah, I do really love doing what I do. Like, I'm not opposed to taking it, outside of the region or touring or anything like that. But, I'm glad that you bring that up because, yeah, I am really happy just doing what I do locally. Like, if that's all I ever do, then I'm happy with that. That's still huge for me. I think a lot of people think that you get into music and every single person who starts out in music has these these grand aspirations, and not everybody does. Sometimes you can just be really happy just putting on a show for people that you can really have like a in-person connection with. And even if that's all I ever do, I'm really happy that I'm able to do that.
How did you get into music? Because I always kind of knew from a young age music's what I wanted to do. Very, very young. I just posted a little thing. My dad's like taking all our old videos and putting it onto digital. And there's a video of me from when I was like 3. I had to have been 3 or 4. I asked my dad, and playing piano. So I just kind of knew. By the time I was 8, I knew I wanted to be involved with music, no matter what. Was there a time? Did you even grow up in music? Was it something that came later?
So I grew up in instrumental music, actually. I didn't sing at all until I graduated not high school, until I graduated college. I did not sing at all.
Wow.
I was it was one of those things, like, I was such a shy kid growing up. So like I always had kind of these pipe dreams, what I call them, of being really like a bold singer and a performer. And I just never really thought it was something I would do. And then when I was 22, I was like, fuck it. Like, I'm going to learn how to sing,
so cool.
And I'm going to do this thing. Yeah. And then, however many years later, like that, up until COVID, that was a big part of what I was doing for a living. So, I've always loved music, but it wasn't really until I actually started singing that I, realized, like, oh, I can do this. Like, I could pursue this and actually make something out of this.
That's incredible, because that just shows how naturally gifted you are, because you have such a big voice coming out of that small body. And I think I was working at the time, because bartending is basically the only job I can get when I'm not on tour. That'll like take me and let me work a couple shifts and then be gone for a month or so. And I think the first time I saw you was at Tin Roof in Baltimore. And then I've actually gotten to come out and see you solo and with the full bands at a couple other places. I usually stick to myself, though. But, you guys are great. I mean, anything with you backed, and I just feel like with technology and the way things are, you could do a lot of solo stuff right now if you wanted to. You could do a lot of the other stuff and release music and really kind of do your own thing. Have you thought about it, or do you have anything solo or under the belt that you might release in the future?
I do have like a writing project that I'm working on with a producer, where I'm doing like a one-off song with this one producer. I've been kind of writing on and off, I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with that yet. I've been, I've had like that artist block thing going on for a while where like I was writing for years and years and performing the stuff that I had written. And then I kind of got to like a year ago where I was just like, oh, I hate everything I've ever written. I don't want to acknowledge it, even though that's silly. But, I think that's something a lot of writers, artists, any kind of creatives can relate to. So that's
creatives.
Yeah, it's sort of in flux. Like, yes, I will almost definitely do something more productive with what I've written and write more. But like, I'm still kind of working on getting through that hump of like, not hating everything I've ever done. So.
Yeah, it's hard. Even with this podcast, there was a point where it's not that I didn't like it, but there's so much effort that goes into it, just especially because I'm not a sound engineer or a videographer or anything like that. I've been talking to national artists and touring such a huge thing for them. But since you're not touring, it's still affecting you with local bars and businesses. Have you heard much about them reopening? And even if they do reopen, are they going to be at, half capacity, a fourth capacity?
Yeah, it's so hard to say at this point. Like, I think it's going to be a really long time before things get back anywhere close to what they were. Um, my main band, we are set to do a virtual concert in a couple of weeks, so I'm
That's
excited
cool.
for that. It's our first like organized show that we've had for a couple months. Um, and I've heard some talk about like maybe some more open air type of venues opening up over the summer in a way that people can still kind of enjoy the music but keep their distance. But in terms of like things going back to the capacity that they were, yeah, it's hard to say when or if. There's so much up in the air right now. I think a lot of us as musicians have kind of had to just come and accept the uncertainty.
It's definitely difficult for everyone, and it's hard not to talk about it because I feel like every artist I brought on, we have to talk about it because our industry, I think, got affected the most.
I'm pretty lucky in that I do work from home. Like I am able
Hmm.
to I have a part-time day job, and I've been involved with I've been working with a physical therapy practice for like
Oh,
8
that's
years
cool.
on and off. So I've been like popping in there every once in a while. So I do still have some work going on. So I almost don't want to pursue money that's specific to artists just because I know so many people in the scene where that was
Hmm.
all that they had income wise. And I know
Yeah.
how much they've, suffered with, not suffered, that's a little dramatic, but like how much of a struggle it is to secure unemployment. And then all the uncertainty with unemployment is also really stressful. So
Yeah.
if need be, like I'd rather leave any kind of money like that towards people who really, really need it.
Hmm.
Because I know it's just, there's not an unlimited amount of it. But yeah, I've been really lucky in that, I've worked other jobs through the years and I've been able to continue working from home, even if part time, just to have something to sustain me while we figure out what the hell was going on. I mean, music was starting to be like a big part of my income, and especially this year, like
Hmm.
I had such a full schedule coming up of just all these great things I was really looking forward to, and
Yeah.
to lose all of that, I not even financially, like it was hard hitting for other reasons, but
Yeah. Just even
you know,
mental health or creativity and stuff. I mean, the reason, we're creatives is because we have that artsy feel and the need to, again, create things and see things through.
yeah.
But yeah, I really feel for everyone, and I'm so glad that you were able to come on here. What are some of your influences or bands that you listen to? Because people know me through kind of the reggae rock scene, because those are a lot of the bands that I've helped out and work with. But
Mhm.
I actually I'm a big metal guy. I like a lot of metalcore and punk and rock music, 90s, and then all the classics like The Doors, The Who, The Beatles, and stuff like that. What was your big influences growing up?
Yeah, I'd say my tastes are similarly very eclectic. Like the music that stuck with me is a lot of rock and a lot of classic rock, like you described.
Hmm.
When I was growing up and starting to really fall in love with music, the bands that I think were the most prominent at that time for me were like Pixies was a big one for
Hmm.
me,
Awesome.
Ramones, a lot of the '90s rock. Like it would take me forever to name all those bands individually, but
Right. Yeah.
'90s rock was a big thing. But then I still like I love some like more folksy singer songwriter kind of stuff.
Hmm.
Sometimes I like a little bit of the heavier. Like it's hard to really like it's hard to ever limit my answer to that question because there's just so much that I love and so much that has shaped me musically and inspired me that it's there's definitely been you know a, a wiggly path there. I
Yeah.
guess.
I feel like the even with my background, I have all these different styles of bands, kind of the reggae rock scene. Like the second row here is Linkin Park and like 90s 311, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Foo Fighters, Incubus,
Mhm.
Korn, and then like the bottom's like the punk, all the punk bands that
Yeah,
I was into, and the top is all the metalcore stuff I was into as well.
yeah.
I feel like people that grew up in our time, I say our time because I assume I'm sure you're younger than me. I'm getting old now, but like that grew up as our teen years were the 90s and 2000s. There was more of an eclectic taste and an all around thing. And even though rock kind of dominated, I still feel like I was really into everything growing up. I mean, rap,
Yeah.
rock, even some I don't want to say country because I really wasn't, but but I also don't hate on country either. I mean, I'm not a fan of it, but you know, yeah, you gotta. I mean, I like good. To me, good music is good music. If you get a feeling from it, and that's I think what I started before when I kind of lost track. Seeing you, I get that feeling. You know what I mean? Like it's that feeling of wow, this is awesome, or you know, just that like appreciation of how good you are. So yeah, you know, the first time I'm seeing you guys, and I realized I was bartending, and then all of a sudden I hear this voice. I'm like, damn, she's really good, you know. And I always look for local because again, I feel like there's a lot of people that either do, and even if they're not, there's nothing wrong with setting up shows and trying to do things locally. Because to me, success would be not necessarily being a millionaire, but working with the same band for the next 10 plus years. That to me is success. Like to me, being able to take a band from nothing when it's the hardest, because I could easily go with a middle national touring band and then work my way up, or even get with a bigger band and then kind of, you know, they're bringing in income. So it's easy to say, okay, well, here are your options because we can do so many different things. Whereas, you know, when you're starting from scratch and you're really trying to find yourselves musically, understand the business, and really get on, because it is a business, you know, where we can't sell physical copies anymore and make $10 off each CD and still pay out everyone we need to pay out. So it's really difficult. I don't know how long did you used to sell CDs, or is this a newer thing where do you put any music out on Spotify, or that would probably be for your solo stuff because you guys do a lot of covers and bars?
Yeah, I've been so most of my activity in the last couple of years has been with covers. I do have some collaborations I've done are on Spotify, but yeah, like I've never been making money off of music that I've written. And it's like the business model has changed so much even since I was growing up, since we were growing up. Like, yeah, you can't really make money off of physical merchandise the way you used to, because now it's just, you know, why would people go buy a CD when they can go just click a button and hear what they want to hear?
Right.
So there's been a lot of it's a lot of work to adjust to that. So but no, short answer, no, I haven't sold CDs.
Yeah, I asked that just because I wasn't sure these days. It's like, you know, unless you're touring or you have the merchandise stuff, it's really hard to make money. But again, I know it's different, you know, being on a local scene. I know you're still working, but I'm sure you've still had some time to check out things that maybe you normally wouldn't. So obviously Tiger King and all those different shows. Are there other shows that you just really got into and now you're sucked into, or is everything pretty much stay the same?
I don't know that I have like new stuff that I've gotten sucked into. I've just gotten into watching all the junk that used to suck me in back in the day, like reruns of America's Next Top Model. I've been I think I've watched like just an embarrassing amount. I don't even want to admit how many seasons I've watched during quarantine. I'm always watching Office reruns. That's just like comfort food mentally.
Yeah.
Yeah, just other bullshit like that. I did watch a little bit of Tiger King. That was entertaining.
I watched it before everyone started talking about it, and the whole time I just kept thinking in my head, like, this can't be real. Like, this is so outrageous. And it is so, I'm like, they had to have overproduced this. And then I went and did the research. I'm like, nah, it was pretty crazy. It was still kind of like that.
Yeah, some people are just weird. Like it, you know, I think that was exactly probably just the Schadenfreude that a lot of us needed right at that point when quarantine was beginning. Like, okay, our lives are fucked right now, but at least I'm not like
that fucked.
At least I'm not that like at least that's not my life, you know. So it's hard to be really upset about where you're at when you can when at least you're not that.
Yeah. So looking through your Instagram, I pretty much got that you love animals, a good drink, and a lot of crushes and stuff like this, and good scenes. How much have you been able to write now? Again, I know you said you've been working on stuff, but with the extra time, has that made you more creative? Or like you said, you kind of had a writer's block for a little bit. Has this made you overthink things?
You know, at the beginning, I think there was a lot of overthinking. Like it was at the beginning, it was just hard to be productive in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
it was, there was so much uncertainty, and there were some other like crappy things that happened at the beginning of quarantine. Like I had a good friend who died in the second week of quarantine, and it's like, well,
It's
we've got
horrible.
this
I'm
going on, and
sorry.
now we've got this. Yeah, it's freaking sucks. Like, um, as time has gone on, like I feel like I've sort of adjusted to it quite a bit
Hmm.
more. I've
Yep.
become much more accepting, and I think in that sense, I've become a little bit more level-headed and been able to force myself to write even when I don't feel like it, because
Hmm.
I think as a writer of any kind, like that's what you have to do. You can't wait for a time when you feel like writing. Like you just have to do it. Even if what you're putting on paper, you look back at it the next day and you're like, that's the stupidest thing that anybody's
Hmm.
ever created in their whole life. At least like you can say you've put something down on paper. You're getting yourself in the habit of trying to just generate ideas.
Right.
So I do think that I've gotten a little bit better, but starting out I was just like, I was just fucking around all day, like
Yeah.
sleeping, tired, like just exhausted from existing
Everything.
because
Right.
yeah, because things
2020
are just
really
so
did start off start off a shit show, didn't it?
like the entirety of Australia was on fire for starters, and that's
Yeah.
not even the defining event of this year.
I
Like
know, right? And all the other stuff that's going on.
there's just so much. Like
The Navy admits that there are UFOs, or at least that the videos are of unidentified flying objects, whether it be human made or not.
right. Well,
And
the thing is,
and no one's
unidentified
talking
flying
about it.
object is a
Yeah.
vague term. Like
Yeah.
it's a flying object and we can't identify it. Yeah, it might not be a little green man, but we have not
No.
identified it. So that much we know. Yeah.
Well, here's my tin hat theory.
Mhm.
I've always felt that Roswell wasn't actually aliens. I think it was human. I think it was the Germans had gotten hold of either alien technology or something else,
Mhm.
and that was kind of their stealthy uh, spy kind of a thing where they were doing test runs and stuff. And so when it
Mhm.
crashed, it's like they didn't. The U.S. had no clue who it was, whether it was alien or not. So they're thinking in their
Right.
heads, "Oh crap, we got to cover this up because this could be very dangerous." The
Mhm.
reason I think that is because as soon as the war ended, they hired all those German scientists to come over and work for NASA. So it's like, why
Mhm.
are they hiring we just finished the war with them. Why are we hiring all these German? So I think there actually is, and there is more to it than we believe. But it's the same thing with the moon, where I think they actually did go to the moon. I don't think there's any conspiracy that we didn't go to the moon. But I
Right.
also think then they also made fake things to put out there to
Mhm.
screw with everything, because when they did get up there, like, oh shit, there's actually already like people or things here. There's like evidence of other things. And they didn't
Yeah.
want people to know that. So that's my tin hat theory. Do I believe it 100%? No, but it makes more sense to me than other things. So, yeah, I think it was the Germans that actually had the technology before us, but the US, since they didn't know who or what did it, kept it under wraps. Then they figured out it was the Germans, and that's when they started getting all the scientists over. But yeah, it does sound
You've
crazy.
done more digging than I have. I don't have a lot of knowledge on Roswell.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've been watching a lot of this stuff just because it came out. Because again, I'm not to the point where I think there's this whole
Mhm.
conspiracy. I definitely think there's stuff we don't know about the government's hiding because they have to. I agree with hiding it. If I can't even get toilet paper during a pandemic, there's no way in hell the government's going to tell us that there's aliens and shit isn't going to hit the fan. And,
I
and
mean,
that's what I think
yeah.
it comes down to. That's what I was kind of getting at, is that I think it's not that there's anything crazy or nothing that we don't go. I just don't think we're as humans, our society with social media, everything else, just the way we've been brought up, where we're not capable of handling the truth or capable of being organized in a crazy situation.
There is definitely some information that I would be very concerned about the general public finding out if I were in charge of that kind of information. I mean, given how the general public handles things that are relatively benign,
Right.
yeah, you never know. You never know.
I mean, I recently just got hand sanitizer. They started restocking it online and stuff like that. And I'm like,
Yeah.
people went so crazy in the first couple
I
weeks.
know, like
If aliens came, like if we went out and said, there are aliens, now they're not dangerous, but that doesn't mean that they wouldn't be able to kill us in an instant if they wanted to. So we've been trying to keep
right.
relations, and this is kind of the deal we've worked out. Even if there's no imminent threat, well, it's always going to be politicized. I think that's the hardest thing about today, is that something that should be a human factor, no matter what side you're on, always becomes, and then you have the Democrats, like the far left, saying stupid stuff. You have the far right saying stupid stuff. And it's just hard because I'd like to believe that most Americans are somewhere down the middle, where I believe that I should be able to have a gun because it's my right to own a gun. I'm 5'7", 8. So, if I need to protect myself, especially if stuff like this keeps happening, I want to be able to protect myself. I also believe that kids should be able to go to school safe, and there's got to be other ways that are down the middle that both sides can be happy without, if you're a good American citizen, there should be no reason you can't get a gun, no matter what. But, and then also when it comes to this stuff, we'd still make it into the Democrats would want to be friends with the aliens and change all these laws. And then the Republicans would be like, no, they're aliens. We need to, raise up arms. So it would still become something no matter what. And
it's a very polarizing dynamic that we have in this country in particular, two very different mentalities that go into like what you described.
It's weird that I'm seeing a lot of my friends I never had ideas felt one way or the other come out. And now I'm seeing a lot of them I didn't see that coming from you. But now that you've said or posted those things, it kind of makes sense. But we're too PC, and it annoys me. I can't say one thing without someone correcting me. And the problem isn't even that they're right or I'm right. It's that I'll say one thing and both of what we're saying is true. It just doesn't fit in that situation together, So I'll say, well, I believe this. And then someone will well, what about this happened? You're right in what you're saying, but it doesn't counteract what I'm saying. It's two different things. Do you even get involved with politics or anything these days? Because I honestly just turned everything off to this point. It's just...
You know what? I've gotten more vocal, I think. And it's not even just like a lot of people say politics. I think more what I'm outspoken on is moral issues. I think disagreeing on politics. Yeah, exactly. I think people have, they accept disagreements on politics, and people who have sincere moral disagreements like to hide behind the idea that it's a political difference, when really if you have a moral difference that's where your beliefs are directly counteractive to somebody's life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, you can't really hide behind, it's a political difference. If you think certain people deserve to, I don't want to get too freaking dark, but I think I've become more outspoken on issues of morality, and that's I think especially over quarantine, I've just gotten more of a fire for that, and I've gotten a lot more verbal online, and whereas before I was kind of I was a little bit, in situations with people I knew well, I was comfortable speaking out, but I've gotten a lot more comfortable just taking risks and speaking out, because I think that's the kind of things you need to do to make changes. And on that kind of
Yeah, no, that's awesome, because I feel people don't, and that's why things don't change, because instead of doing your researching and becoming educated, because I think that's half of it, is educating yourself. If I don't know enough about a subject, I'm not going to talk politically about it. And what I was getting at before is where it's a human thing, not a political thing. You couldn't have said it any better. And it comes down to right or wrong. It comes down to moral issues. And to me, it's that simple. It's well, would doing this, or is this law morally right? Is this going to affect someone in some way? And that's what I think kind of is frustrating, is that I do feel I'm Democratic in my social beliefs and I'm Republican in my business beliefs. You know what I mean? And then I see the certain Democrats that are ruining it, because I'm well, you're giving them what they want. You're baiting them, and you're doing all this other stuff that's not helping our cause socially and morally. And then on the other side, I'm come on, guys, Republicans, let's get it together here and stop trying to push the party line and actually get some, it's almost embarrassing that Trump's our president. I mean, it is embarrassing. I shouldn't say almost. To me, it is embarrassing.
You can say it.
And I just don't know, going to another country, I can't imagine how they look at you and Americans, really? And I know we've had television people or movie people like Ronald Reagan and other in the past where they were public figures and not necessarily lifelong, politicians. But I mean, Donald Trump, we couldn't have done better than that. And
Yeah.
I don't know. He's just, I think what scares me the most is that I think we all know Donald Trump's Donald Trump, and he's an idiot, and there's no business being our president. What scares me is that there's people that do. It scares me that there's actually people that think, oh, he's a great president, and yeah.
It's been the biggest, scariest eye opener that, like, I think if it's always been common knowledge that it takes more than facts to sway somebody's opinion. Like, you can show facts, but if somebody's got like a really strong emotional attachment to an idea, they're not necessarily going to incorporate those facts into their worldview because they're more attached to their worldview than they are to objective interpretations of reality. I think that's like established, but that's never been more clearly illustrated than in the last couple of years. And also it's just become more obvious the amount of people that don't really know how to evaluate information properly. Like, people who will take one source, they'll take some random YouTube video and go, well, this is a source of information, so this is where I'm justifying my worldview. And it's like, yeah, but you're not actually, this is not like independently researched, this is not peer reviewed, this is not like an actual study, this is coming from somebody who's motivated by something that promotes them to kind of produce this. Like, the point being, like, people don't know how to evaluate information, and I think in some cases they just don't want to. I think some people are just like, they have their shitty worldviews, and nowadays, like, they don't even care. Like, they don't care that factual information disagrees with them because they think what they think, and factual information is no longer king. Like, morality is not king. Like,
remember we used to cite,
like
we used to have to cite our stuff, and now we're just
like
taking anything and everything from Facebook. But that's the problem. That's why I say because even now, like, sometimes you can go to government sites and you don't know if it's like right. And that's the scary thing, is that before anything on Facebook or social media you knew was kind of bullshit, and you would go do your research on Google. Now you go on Google and you type thing in, and then it's still, you don't know what sites are factual, just because everyone has access to a computer now, so everyone can post or make their own website. And with the algorithms, it's all about who has the most money to spend to get yourself in front of things and different stuff. Even the stuff you think is not a thing is backed by companies or has something behind it, It's just weird, and it's just, it's scary to think that everyone these days, their argument comes from things that we don't have actual facts for.
Yeah, and they don't care. That's the scarier thing, is that they don't care. Like, you can literally show people something going, here's a very like, you can literally show somebody I a couple weeks ago I showed somebody a literal video of like Trump saying whatever stupid thing he said that day, and they were like, she was like, he didn't actually say that. I'm like, it's in a video of him saying that. Like, you can't get any more direct than that. Like,
or they make up an excuse. Like, they'll make up an excuse of why. He's like, oh, that's just Trump being Trump, or he's just joking around. Like, no, like, telling people to, like, I think it was, he told him to take that one medication, or he was telling him to drink something else that was like poisonous. It's just like, come on, man.
He said, well, the one, I mean, the disinfectant thing, for one, like, it started out, people were like, well, I mean, maybe it is something we should explore. And then the next day when he came out and said he was joking, they were like, he was joking. I'm like, really? 2 seconds ago you said it was. And the thing is, like, microbiology 101, disinfectant is not for human tissue, so it's not something we should explore. It's been explored. It's been done. We did the damn thing. We know that doesn't work. Like, what the fuck?
I just hate the argument. People are like, oh, stop being sheep and stop being, I don't want to be controlled by the government. I don't know if it's because we're growing up, so we see more things. You're a little more naive when you're younger, and you're just, you don't think about these things because you don't see it. Or, when you're younger, it seems like everyone's, like, for the most part, a good person. And then when you meet, like, an asshole, you're like, oh, man, what a jerk. Nowadays, like, everyone's a jerk. And then it's like, oh, he was really nice. I'm like, no, that's backwards. You shouldn't be surprised when you meet a nice person. And
Oh,
yeah, it is weird with all this policy stuff that people, and see, that's the thing. I don't want to think that people are that dumb. Like, are we that dumb in America that we just don't care and we just say, fuck it? Like, I'm going to say it just to say it, you know? I started to do a redneck accent there when I said that. And I don't, it can be anyone, but it tends to be the South. It just,
yeah.
my point of this, though, is that people will make up excuses and try and shame you. And I'm like, well, I have two elderly parents who aren't that healthy, and I'm trying to help them out and, get groceries and do different stuff. And even though my personal thing is, I'm not going to hate on you if you don't wear one. I think you're an idiot. And I think it just shows the type of morals you have. Like, going back to it being a moral thing, the government isn't stopping you from going outside. I can still go outside and go grocery shop. I can do whatever I want. But when do we stop thinking about other people? It's like, I was raised to respect elders, be a good neighbor, and that should just be a human thing, not even a religious thing. Because I know I got taught that in Catholic school and all that stuff. But I thought that was a society thing, is being kind to your neighbor. And again, it's like, how can you not realize that you doing this is going to make it worse? And you're complaining about how you want to reopen, but if the things start going up, then they're going to shut it. And was that 1 week of fun? Like, how much of an alcoholic do you have to be? And it's not even alcoholic, because I don't want to say alcoholic, because that's different than people that are going out and just breaking rules and who aren't, because that's not fair to people who actually have a problem and need the help. Because I can't imagine during this time how difficult that's been, not having the resources. But for the socialites out there, the socialites out there that just want to go out and drink, and they're complaining about everything and how their rights are being suppressed. Go to another country where you don't have any of this, and then tell me how your rights are being suppressed. It's like, can you imagine if we didn't even have the infrastructure that we already don't have a good enough infrastructure? Imagine if we were a country that has even worse, where you're actually living in poverty. And not just upset that you can't pay your $4,000 a month rent, when you could have easily got an apartment for like $1,200 or something. But it's just it's sad. It's confusing, and people are always like, I think what kind of sucks is that I could never be president because I was adopted, so I wasn't born in the country. So even though I was like 6 months old when I landed in Maryland, I could never be president for that 6 months. And what sucks is that I think it excludes a lot of people that actually would be good candidates and would be good people that do back America and do believe in America. And I hope that changes someday, because then it's like, well, wait, you came over here and literally held a gun to the Indians' head and said, it's our land now. And we've always kind of grew up on that white history. And that's why I think I get so much into aliens and other things, is because a lot of the stuff that we're seeing now, backed by scientific research, is showing that, and now I'm not saying that aliens created everything, but what I'm saying is that there were many civilizations in the past that were more advanced than us, that for whatever reason were wiped away, or, different things happened. And is it more far-fetched that that's the case? And that it's just a cycle on this earth, and we're kind of going through that same cycle right now. Yeah. I think a lot of people have that view that, well, I don't care because it's not going to happen in my lifetime. Like, we're not going to have I don't know that. Who knows? Who's to say that we're not going to have another World War III? It's looking more and more probable the more we go on, or having natural disasters. It's still kind of cold out, and we're in May now, We had a couple nice days.
The situation we're in now, like with the pandemic, like
exactly.
It's important to recognize that we're fallible. Like, I think it's easy for us to get complacent and comfortable in where we're at, but we are fallible. We're a human society. We could be taken out by a freaking meteor tomorrow. I mean, probably not, but point being, we're fallible. Like, we're not above human weakness.
No, Mother Nature always wins if she wants to. And it's crazy because you would think that this would be the type of thing that would get humans to say, you know what, we have been doing things wrong. Look, this directly correlates with the things we've been doing to the earth, and, different things like that. And noticing that we don't have the infrastructure for things that, if this would happen, we don't have the finance, because everything's based on, instead of having more easier, accessible healthcare for everyone. I'm not saying everyone needs to have free healthcare, but I'm saying it should be accessible. Like, you should be able to afford healthcare for yourself and still pay your rent and stuff like
It's
that.
only a luxury to not die.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And you know, and then people still have the right to pay more for better healthcare, but there should be an accessible option for everyone. And then,
Yeah.
you know, but we don't. So it's like, that's why a lot of these sickness, because people can't even, but again, you know, the CDC, this all goes back to not having enough funds for like the CDC and all these departments that were just wiped clean of all the
Yeah.
stuff that, again, I would say 3 years ago, we were in much better position. And it's funny to me, I was like, oh, we were so shitty under Obama. And even though Obama wasn't perfect and I wasn't a huge fan of him in certain respects, that's just bullshit. Because I looked up the numbers. I actually went and did my research and looked at how much was actually in each thing and the different things. And, you know, trying to come out from a war from, you know, what Bush put everyone through and you know, the trillions of dollars of debt that we went into because of that, no matter who was in president, it was going to be bad at first. And it was going to be an uphill struggle. It was going to take more than 8 years to get the country back from that. But now it's like, I think there's direct correlation saying, well, Trump's saying, well, we don't have enough money for this. You know, we don't have enough money for that. But it shows that there was enough money, but for some reason, a lot of it was taken out. And he's saying, well, now we don't have any relief fund. I'm like, wait, we had it before. And what scares me is people think that, oh, we're getting the stipends and we're getting all this. That's not free either. So where we had money available, where it would have been free to a degree or would have been within what we were trying to do, now not only is that money not there, we're also adding on to that. And people were thinking, oh, it's free. Thanks for the stipend. I'm like, no, you don't understand. That's not free. That's going to come out of our taxes eventually, you know?
Yeah.
Even though they're taking taxes out of it. So it's scary all around. But
so much scary.
have you... I'm the same way in that I still listen to, I'm a 90s kid. I still listen to old music and the classics and stuff. Has the pandemic gotten you into music that you haven't listened to before? Or have you found other artists within your genre that you're like, oh, this isn't too bad?
Probably. Yeah. I mean, I've like during the days where I've been in those like doom spirals where I'm really anxious, I've poured myself into a lot of music. Some of it's familiar. Some of it's new, I guess. A friend actually like a week or so ago introduced me to a band called the Horrible Crows. I don't know if you know them, but like
I haven't
so
heard of them,
Gaslight
but-
Anthem. Yeah, so like I was a big fan of Gaslight Anthem for a while, and it's the singer from Gaslight Anthem and some other people. So
Oh, cool.
started listening to them. Yeah, like there's I know, like I basically what I do with music lately, like I have Spotify and I love it, and then when I either think of a song I haven't heard in a while or somebody tells me something I should listen to, I just add it on a playlist. So I have all these eclectic playlists of stuff I've just been collecting. And that's, you know, that's continued to grow over the you know, the time of quarantine. I don't know that it's been really the process in that sense has really been any different, but yeah, I feel like every period of my life has certain songs that I've, you know, associated with it, and the quarantine almost certainly will too. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat when we were talking before about at first kind of taking it off. I had gone to a long time ago. I had 311 Day planned in Vegas, and I didn't want to miss it this year. And I'm kind of glad I went because I haven't gone in a couple years because I've been going on those cruises, and the music cruises are pretty cool. But you know, I'm glad I went because who knows? I'm pretty sure we're not going to be having a cruise anytime soon. So going to Vegas, and this was like March 11th, and I think I left and flew home like the 17th. So this was right when everything was starting, and I'm pretty sure that last 311 show was like the only live event going on in the entire country, which was pretty cool. At the same time, I remember, I remember going out there, and when I got back, I was like, oh crap, what am I going to do? I had I was talking about the cruises and the company that does those, 6-Man. So I flew back Saturday. And the Monday I got back, I got the email where they were like, okay, so we're really sorry, but because of COVID, we're not doing any new hires now. And I was like, oh, man, I had everything planned to move down to Atlanta and kind of get going down there and all this. So I kind of took 2 weeks off. And with this, I think we started to go into like having almost a creative block or not being or almost being self-conscious of the things you're putting out. And I noticed that I
Mhm.
definitely do that with this podcast in the sense of I had about 20 some episodes recorded and I've only put out
Mhm.
9 because I'm so,
Mhm.
like, oh man, is this good enough or, whatever, or not even if it's good enough, it's not where I want it to be. It's not as good as I want it to be because in your head,
Yeah,
you
it's
know
not
where
meant to
you
be your
want it to be.
standard. Yeah.
Yeah. You see the big picture and
Yeah.
you're like, okay, I always liken it that I would like to be the Joe Rogan of music in the sense of my background's in music. His background was in like MMA and being a host in entertainment. So even though my background, but a lot of his guests are everyone, comedians, musicians, etc. And it's about current events, just different things. And that's what, and about the guests and him personally, less about like, oh, again, a puff piece. And that's what I want this to do, even though I have musicians and stuff. That's why before him, we were talking like, I really want to get to know you. And it's hard. I know it's a lot harder for me, at least over Zoom, as than if you came into studio and we're sitting at the same table and we're able to actually look each other in the face and have a
Yeah.
conversation and look things up. It's a lot different. And I've noticed that
Yeah.
if I kind of stuck to that mentality, I wouldn't have put anything out, period. And then I was about to put everything else out and I was like, I want to really do a good video so that I can put stuff on YouTube and have that go along so it kind of expands what we're trying to do here. And so I bought a hard drive, a couple new hard drives so I could back up and then back up. And they had this option where I could partition it, the same hard drive, so I had 3 different work things or whatever I needed. So I thought I was only adding stuff to it. And apparently, long story short, it erased every single podcast I ever had done.
Oh no.
So I lost everything, including videos and other things I had. But I have the 9 that were put up there. And so I basically had to start from scratch with this video. So
Mhm.
just to the point of not putting stuff out there, I would caution people to always put it out there, even if it's not quite where you want it to be, because also I can see the growth. And that's kind of why I split it up into seasons, just
Right.
so I can see, well, even though it wasn't what I wanted, you can see the growth from season to season, how it gets better. But is there anything you want to promote? Any, at least maybe for your band, that once we can see some live streams, or at least keep an eye out, or even donate.
Mhm. Well, my band is called Shake the Room, so definitely, follow us for some updates. We should have some virtual stuff coming up soon.
Mm-hmm.
So, keep an eye on that. That's probably the main thing right now. And then, just stay posted to my Instagram, my Facebook. I will update with other exciting things. I did just do a collaboration with some other artists for my agency. Did a little Blind Melon cover. I don't know if you saw
I
that,
saw
but
that, and I was gonna
yeah,
pull
check
that up.
that
It's really good, really good.
out. Thank you.
Yeah, they're a great band
Apparently,
too.
the Blind Melon guitarist actually liked it, so that was my ego boost for the day.
Wow,
So
that's cool.
yeah,
Yeah, I remember that video from when I was younger. No
yeah.
Rain, the girl in the bumblebee suit, and that always stuck out to me
Mhm.
just because that was classic '90s, end of the '80s, like early '90s
Mhm.
for me. So, well, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it so much, you taking the time, and just because you're one of my favorite local artists, and I hopefully I can start spotlighting some more. And once all this ends, come out and see you soon. So thanks so much for coming on, and
Awesome.
please be safe out there, and continued luck and all this stuff.
Thank you, and you be safe as well.
Thanks so much.